Hey everybody, I'm Wally with Beach River Landscapes. Today I'm going to talk to you about something I get asked a lot, and it's about my first year in business and how well I did do or how well I didn't do. So I'm going to cover a couple things. Actually, the first time I got into business and then when I had to start over, there were two totally different scenarios, two totally different outcomes, and just two different types of work to get done. So let's get started.
Don't touch mine.
All right guys, so like I said, we're going to talk about my first year in business twice. So I had to start over, and like I said, everything was totally different. So first things first year in business. Why I got into lawn and landscape in the first place. A lot of you guys know my backstory, we won't get into it. I used to have normal jobs, and I was a trainer, I did all kinds of things, I was managers here, I just did all kinds of jobs, had a lot of different jobs. Got to a point where I did music and I left and I toured, and you kind of live this like pirate, live free life, so for me, when I got to that point to where I just didn't want to do that anymore and I wanted to be home and I wanted to start a family, I had to figure out what to do. So the suggestion came up to start a lawn business, and so that's what I ended up doing. And it was just really hard to come back and work for somebody. It's a really hard thing to explain. I've always been a model employee, went above and beyond, definitely always like that. But, whenever I decided to say, okay, I'm gonna stay home and I'm going to do this, it was just a no-brainer for me to not have to go work for somebody and to kind of do my own thing. So I came back, and through some friends that own lawn businesses, I ended up working for them for a couple months just to get a feel, to see how things work, to see what it's like owning a business. They all knew, I had three different friends, John, Chris, and my friend Nick. And they all knew that I wanted to start my own business, that I'm just not somebody who's just gonna go work for them and mow lawns. So they all let me work on and off with them for a couple months and really gave me a good idea of what it's like to make sure that this is something I wanted to do. Of course, I really liked it. I thought it was awesome. I jumped in, I learned how to do everything. Yes, in a couple of months, I got really good. So good enough to where I felt good and confident, and good enough to where they felt confident in giving me lawns. So my first go around, I was really blessed. I was really fortunate to have some friends that, wanted to get rid of some lawns anyway. They were willing to support me, and they were willing to support, something I wanted to do. So I was really fortunate, and I took advantage of that privilege in the beginning. So when it was time for me to go out, I ended up getting about 40 lawns total from several friends. And like I said, it was great. So what we did, just kind of reached out, and their clients knew that they were going to be dropping some, these particular clients knew they were going to be dropped anyways because their schedules were just too full. So they were fine with me taking over the lawns. Now what I did in this scenario is I went around with each person and met all of the clients, and they said, as you know, that we're going to be releasing you from our client list, but Wally is somebody that we trust, he's going to do a good job, and et cetera, et cetera. So what I had told people, I said, hey, every person I met, almost all 40 clients, said, hey, just give me 30 days. You're not going to lose anything. You know what I'm saying? Your yard's going to look great. It's going to be beautiful. And if you don't like my work after 30 days, then feel free to go ahead and hire somebody else. So that ended up working out great. I didn't lose one single client, and I already kind of just jumped off. It's about $46,000 a month. It was a little less than 40 clients. Some of them were pretty average homes, and a couple were really nice homes. Of course, they didn't give me their really expensive $200, $300, $400, $700 a month homes. They were just shedding off their lower priced homes, and I took all of them. So it was a really good beginning. $4,000 to $6,000 a month is a lot of money. You can do a lot with that kind of cash. So that's where I started off. So that went on for months and months and months. I started getting the itch. I wanted more. I wanted to do more. I ended up, figuring out some things to get me more clients. When it came down to, networking with, friends and all that, that's what got me started. That's what got, all these lawns, put in our hands right in the beginning, which we were really grateful for. But through the networking, I ended up, knowing a friend that he was actually the brother of a drummer that I know, Scott King. So his brother ended up owning a really big nursery that everybody went to. Such a great guy. So we ended up befriending one another, and he really liked my work ethic and all that. Ended up talking to me one day, said, hey, I got a couple buddies that are selling their landscape and lawn business, if you're interested, I could talk to them. So went home and talked it over. We ended up saying, yeah, that would be a great idea. So went to him and said yes. So they ended up we ended up meeting, having lunch, and the deal was just ridiculous. So I wanted more. I just wanted to expand things, and I was in kind of a hurry to expand them. So what happened is they had a business that they were selling for $55,000. And it's really not, it was just peanuts compared to what they were giving. So they just wanted out. They were doing just huge, massive landscape installs only. And so they just wanted to get rid of all of their lawn maintenance. So what it consisted of was $8,000 a month. It consisted of about $40,000 in equipment, 2 trailers, 4 mowers, hedge trimmers, weed eaters, backpack blowers, the whole 9 yards, man. They almost even gave me a truck. I just, I didn't want the truck. So that was kind of a no-brainer. So the $55,000 ended up mortgaging our house at the time. I would never, ever, disclaimer, recommend you mortgaging your house to go buy a lawn business. I would never recommend that at all. I am definitely a guy that likes risk when I think it's going to be worth it. I think that taking a leap of faith and jumping into things can be a massive turnaround of wealth for you, and then sometimes it can be a massive turnaround of regret for you. So you have to be very careful, and this idea is not for everybody. But I ended up taking that leap of faith. I went around, we drove around to all of the clients, met everybody. They knew that they were going to be getting out of landscape. So they told all of the clients, hey, this is Wally. He's going to be managing all of our residential, lawn maintenance customers while we concentrate on the landscape installs. So what we did was we agreed the price and all that stuff, and so we ended up buying it. And so they helped us with the transition. Took about 3 months of a transition I was managing, and I would use their trailers and trucks. After about 2 months, I would pop in. I used to be called Woodscape Lawn Care. And I would pop in my trailer here and there just so they kind of started getting used to the name. They were under the impression, which was true, that I owned my own lawn service, but I'm taking over management for theirs and adding it to what we already have going on. So what happened was a great result. They loved my work. I tried to make things better than what the other guys were doing before I jumped in, and I did. Not one single client dropped us. So after about 3 months, they sent a letter, an email, and said, hey, I hope that you're all happy with the service that Wally's been providing you. We're gonna go ahead and turn everything over to him officially. Everybody, not one client was opposed to that idea. I got to know them all personally, knocked on their doors and all this, and said, hey, is there anything you need while I'm here? I mean, extra butter, you know what I'm saying? So that turned out to be really, really great. So between what the clients, between the clients that, 3 friends gave me, between the other clients that we picked up, and then between buying this out, we ended up at well over $100,000 a year by the end of our first year that we were now billing out. That was a really great turnout. It was just something that doesn't happen often. Going back, I would probably do the same thing again if I felt the deal was great. There have been other deals that fell through that didn't work. Had one deal where we lost everything that we paid for, twice actually. They were smaller, so things happen of that nature. So that was the first year in business, and it was very successful. I could go on to all kinds of things that happened after that, but the whole point is how I ended up, doing what we did the very first year. So like I said, that first year, 40 clients, a little less than 40 clients given to us. Just wanted some more, and I just happened to fall in this amazing deal. And I haven't really seen a deal like that since, but fell in this amazing deal. And I just felt like it was a really good opportunity, and I would be kind of just a total idiot to pass it up. So I'm glad that I did. It ended up working out great, and I learned so much from that transitional process that ended up buying 2 more lawn companies after that, which just ended up putting, just putting us over about $400,000 a year, just doing just over 200, residential clients. There were a lot of tips and things like that I can share in other videos, where, we ended up picking up just parades of clients from these cool little tricks, that we did. So that just went on and grew, bought out 2 more companies, and everything went great and everything was awesome. A lot of you guys know, I ended up, getting divorced and had to start over, lost everything, was gone. Doesn't matter how, just all the clients were gone except a handful. everything was gone. So starting over was a totally different scenario. Everything was totally different, man. So I ended up having a handful of clients, so ended up, this is whenever I met Leah, we started dating. We were several months into dating, and as crazy as she is and as awesome as she is, she ended up, seeing what I could do and, had total faith and believed in everything to where and it was really hard for me. It was very hard. It's hard for me to let somebody buy me a soda, more or less buy me a dinner. You know what I mean? More or less jump in and financially help start a business. So that was really difficult for me to do. I have a lot of pride when it comes to man in the house stuff. So, I just had to get past that. Got 2 kids to think of, I share 50-50 custody. So they're with me 50% of the time. I have a really big responsibility. And I want to make sure that I provide for my children, family, kind of person that most of us are. So when Leah, jumped in the thing, I had to debate whether or not to go get a 9-to-5 job. And I knew that if I went and got a 9-to-5 job, that I would lose probably a lot of momentum with this and I wouldn't be able to focus on rebuilding because I would just be worried about taking care of the girls, that was my priority at the time. So, it still is, but so Leah and I had talked and she's like, hey, I will help you get this piece of equipment, I'll help you get that piece of equipment, because I ended up really having nothing at all. So we had to go get, new truck, trailers, mowers, all that. I didn't have the capital to just go buy things cash. So, we got together and went out and bought equipment. And I just had a handful of clients that were paying for, financing that equipment. It was paying for it. She was amazing and, supplementing the income that I was not making. And it was a really big thing. And it was very powerful to me to have that, to be able to meet somebody when you are literally at your financial low, like the lowest you've ever been. And to have somebody go, I don't care about that. And, just kind of see everything else beyond that is something I'll just never forget. So, we teamed up together. We started Beach River Landscapes and I just had a handful of clients and it was paying what it was paying. And so what I did was try to find ways to supplement income as I was starting that first year. So that first year I had maybe $1,800, $2,000 a month is all I had, which really wasn't much at all, but it was paying for, the equipment, things like that. And what I thought was some of my own bills. So, I had to figure out ways to supplement the income. So she was already doing a lot, working 80 hours a week, as a nurse and just doing all this extra stuff to really help supplement everything because I was flat on my butt, you know what I mean? So I ended up trying to figure out other ways to supplement income and it took a while, it took like 6-7 months. I ended up seeing on the news one day this app that's, plows and mows. So I ended up looking into that app and that turned out to be freaking phenomenal, man. I ended up picking up so many clients from that. I was, it notifies you if there's a job, you register, you sign up and all this stuff and you go mow lawns, you can do other stuff. It's more advanced now, but at the time it was mainly just lawn service. So every time a job would come up, first come, first serve, I'm like, high alerts with these things. I ended up picking up, sometimes about $1,000 a month in just little mow jobs. I had a friend that was hooked up with a large management company. They own tons of homes, so they were always mowing, always doing sod jobs, irrigation installs. So I ended up reaching out to this friend and said, hey, if you got any jobs that you don't want to do, let me know, I will do them. And man, he hooked me up with so much work. I was so grateful. I ended up being able to supplement so much money until I got the lawn maintenance, monthlies to a solid point, which took about a good year. So starting over to self-sustaining took about a year and a half. Totally different story than the first one. Kind of more of a realistic story. So what I did, I had a friend that said, hey, there's this brand new subdivision. A friend of mine lives in there. He's the only one I know in there. I can get you hooked up with this dude. It's my friend Caleb Green, who's my brother's really good friend. He owns like a big roofing company. He used to do lawn maintenance and all that, and he knows a lot of guys. And so I ended up connecting with this gentleman that lived in this neighborhood. And dude, this is where I had to hustle. I hustled, guys, hustled. I was like, dude, these homes are like $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 homes. They have small yards, but check this out. I will bust your yard out for $50 a month, just $50 a month, just so my truck can be in this neighborhood. And all I need you to do is give me referrals to as many people as you can. I know that sounds crazy. There's no way I would mow a house for 50 bucks a month. But when you're hustling, you're struggling, you got kids to take care of, a wife that, we weren't married at the time, but you have a family that you're trying to take care of, and she's out there busting her butt 80 hours a week for you. 50 bucks a month to get into a neighborhood should be a no-brainer. So it was for me. And it worked, guys, it worked. So went in there and I was like, dude, I will make your house be the nicest looking yard on the whole street. And it was, not to be vain, but it was, man. I did everything extra. This is probably a 15, 20 minute yard. You know what I'm saying? I sat there for about an hour sometimes just to have my trailer out in front of his house. And this place just looked diamonds, man. It looked beautiful. It worked. Within about 5 weeks, I ended up with 12 more clients, which were friends of his. Like, man, this guy does a killer job. I gave them a good rate. I found out what the highest paid was in the neighborhood and found out what the lowest paid from people that, info that he could get. And I went about 3/4 to the highest because, I'm not cheapskate. Like, we do really good work. You're going to pay for it. But, the highest paid in the neighborhood was like 125. I ended up at 115 for most of the yards. So ended up picking up 12 yards there. I ended up developing this idea where, you take a business card on one side, but the other side has an all-inclusive basic services included, and then a spot where you can handwrite a bid on somebody's yard. So I would not knock on people's doors. I don't like doing that. I don't like soliciting by knocking on your door. So what I would do is just leave it on their car, or I would leave it on their door, and people would just pick it up, and it already had the price. It's $115 to cut your yard, or $100 to cut your yard, $150, whatever. And it included everything on that card, and they liked it because it's an on-the-spot business card with a bid on the back of it. So there is no, well, how much are you going to charge me? I'll come back out. I already surveyed the area, took a look at it because I'm in the neighborhood. I got a good idea of it, and I was just trying to get quantity. I was trying to build up as many yards in this neighborhood as we could. And it worked, did a great job with that. So got to a point though, a year and a half into it, it was kind of self-sustaining, it was getting up, I was pulling my own weight, if you will. So got to that point, and I just decided I wanted to do commercial stuff. I had that itch where I wanted something different. I wanted to expand. I wanted to get bigger. Not too much though. I like my weekends. I like hanging out with my family. Money's great, but not to where that's all I'm worried about. So I wanted to do commercial stuff really bad. I didn't have any commercial properties. I had done a couple of small condos, with the last company that I had owned. So I wanted to get back into it, but do bigger stuff. So I, of course, my crazy self, I like jumping into things, taking risks, figuring things out as I go. So I ended up posting saying, hey, I want to do commercial stuff. Has anybody got any leads? Friend of mine's like, yeah, I'm a maintenance guy, at a condo, call me. I talked to him. So dude, I can do it. I know this is like a 30-acre property. I've never done anything that big. I'll figure it out. I'll handle it. Just introduce me. So I ended up being introduced to our first big property. Couple hours, we did drive-throughs, walk-arounds. I answered every question. By the end of that drive-through on the golf cart, I got the job. They had no idea that I didn't have any employees. I didn't have any employees except one guy helping me out. So I went from that to being able to pick up this property. So how did I do that with no employees? I was doing pretty good. We were making decent money. The one guy, I kept him on. I asked a brother and a few other friends, hey, every Wednesday, can you meet me at this property? You know what I'm saying? I'll pay you legit, blah, 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 company shirts, all that. Basically part-time job every Wednesday. And that's what I did. I told the people at the management company in the condo, listen, give me 30 days. Normally do contracts and all this big stuff. We'll do a contract, but my contract's gonna say in 30 days, if I do not make you happy, because they knew I didn't have a reference, and it's hard to get into condo work if you have no other references. So it's like, I used to do it, I've been out, went through all this stuff, starting back over. Give me 30 days. If you do not think I can handle the job, you're not gonna hurt anything, nothing, I'm not gonna damage anything, we're gonna mow it. If it's not up to your liking, we'll part ways. You don't have to give me another 30-day notice or anything. We will part ways after 30 days. I'll go this way, I'll go that way, and I'll say thank you very much. End of 30 days, before the 30 days were up, we ended up signing a year-long contract. They loved it. It all worked out. It's all about being creative. I got lucky enough to have friends that were in the business that just for 4 weeks, I said, just guys, can you help me for 4 weeks? I need you every Wednesday. And they're like, cool. They came and worked. After that, I was able to hire a full crew. So within the year after that condo, I had part-time guys that were helping out with this property every Wednesday. And then a couple guys I kept on permanent, you know, to do everything else, and just kind of kept staggering guys in as we got more business. The second condo, I got to use the first one as a big reference, and it just grew from there. And then the rest is just history. So that was my first year. And like I said, the first year on the second time restarting, I mean, I was maybe about $30,000, $30,000 to $40,000 before the end of the first year. By the end of the year and a half, was definitely up closer to like the $80,000 mark. With all the supplemental income and all the extra stuff. And until we picked up the first condo, of course, you know, then the numbers just started flying. But that's where we were at. That's what happened. And those were my first 2 years in lawn business. You can, you know, hopefully you take something away from this. There are risks that you can take if you're willing to take them that can work out. Sometimes they don't work out. You don't know how they're going to work out, but you need to be very careful at what you're exposing yourself to. And in the situation where I mortgaged a house, the deal was phenomenal. It was tons of money. 55 grand was just paid back like that. You know what I'm saying? 8 grand a month, $40,000 in equipment, solid clients. It was a no-brainer. I would not recommend you ever doing that though. Definitely never just go mortgage your house for that. So just risk is always about analyzing what the risk is. You have to weigh things out. Don't ever be impulsive. Be smart. But how I feel about lawn and landscape is you can't ever fail in doing it. You can have failures and you can have down and ups, but you're not going to end up with nothing if you want to put the work in. I call it a mirror business. You know, you get what you put in, you know, what you see back is what you get. So work hard. You can figure out ways to supplement your income. Like I said, you can go to all the real estate people in your town. Say if you're at a full-time job right now, you want to get into lawn maintenance and own it, go to everybody, you know, that own all Watson, like all these real estate companies, give them your name, number, blah, blah, blah. Be like, hey, you know, I'll mow this for you. I'll clean this up. I'll do this side job for you. You can do that to supplement your income and actually pick up permanent clients from that. Somebody buys a home. They saw that you were maintaining it for Watson. Can you continue to manage, you know, maintain my home? I had that happen dozens and dozens of times. There's a lot of creative ways to supplement your income. I have a separate video we're putting out on incentives for clients to spread the word about you, incentives for them to spread the word about you, and then different things with supplementing your income. So we'll do a separate video on that. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. If you liked everything you heard, just subscribe. Leave some comments down below. What was your first year like? What was your worst year like? What was your best year? I'm going to do another video where I talk about operating expenses and percentages where ideally you operate and realistically you operate. So thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you guys in the next one.